Imagine being completely alone, deep in a forest buried under snow. There's no house nearby, no road, no one coming to help. And as the sun begins to disappear, the temperature keeps dropping. But the cold isn't the only problem. A snowstorm is moving in. The wind is getting stronger, the snowfall is getting heavier, and within a few hours, visibility could drop to almost nothing. There's only one thing you can do. Build a shelter before the storm arrives, and you have to build it with whatever you can find in the forest. But the real question is, can a simple shelter made from branches and logs actually keep someone alive through a brutal winter storm? Let's build it from the ground up. The first thing you need is the right location. You can't just build your shelter anywhere. You want a spot with some natural protection from the wind, preferably among dense trees and away from areas where melting snow or water could collect. Then the work begins. He starts gathering long, sturdy branches and logs. These will form the main frame of the shelter. Some are laid along the ground, while others are leaned against a strong tree at an angle, one piece at a time. The basic shape slowly starts to appear. But at this point, it's barely a shelter. It's just a frame made of sticks. Cold air can still blow straight through it from every direction. So now comes one of the most important parts, insulation. He heads back into the forest and gathers thick evergreen branches, choosing the ones with plenty of dense needles. Then he starts layering them over the frame, one layer after another, until most of the wooden structure disappears beneath the branches. And he doesn't stop there. Every small gap is another place where freezing air can get inside. So he keeps adding branches, more and more, until from the outside the shelter almost looks like a pile of snow-covered trees. But inside, something completely different is taking shape, a real shelter. There's still one major weakness: the entrance. If it's left wide open, all the work he just did could be useless. Cold air would pour straight inside, so he builds a small wooden frame around the entrance. Then he uses pieces of wood to make a simple door. It doesn't have to look pretty. It just needs to close the opening and block the wind. But there's still a gap above the entrance, so he places more pieces of wood across the top, then covers them with thick evergreen branches, another layer, and another, until the entrance becomes low and narrow. And that's actually a good thing. A smaller opening means less cold air can get inside. Now the shelter is starting to look like a place where someone could actually spend the night. But one thing is still missing: heat. He crawls inside and starts a fire. At first, it's just a small flame, but as more dry wood is added, the fire begins to grow. Now there's another problem. You can't simply burn a fire inside a small enclosed shelter without dealing with the smoke. So he creates an opening near the top and installs a simple pipe to act as a chimney. The smoke rises and escapes through the top, while the shelter stays protected from the wind. Then he places a small stove inside, and suddenly the entire shelter changes. Just minutes ago, it was nothing more than a frame covered in branches. Now there's a source of heat, and a stove he can use to cook. But the storm still hasn't arrived. He places a small pot on the stove. Then he collects some clean snow and puts it inside. As the snow melts, it turns into drinking water. While the water heats up, he pulls out a piece of meat. He places it on the stove and starts cooking. Then he adds some red pepper. The smell of hot food slowly fills the tiny shelter. Outside, the snow keeps falling, the wind is getting stronger, and the entire forest is disappearing behind a wall of white. But inside, the fire is still burning. The food is almost ready. He sits beside the stove, eats the hot meat, and drinks the water melted from the snow. And suddenly, something becomes clear. Almost everything he needs to survive was already around him. The wood became the frame. The branches became the insulation. The snow became a source of water, and the fire provided heat and food. But the real test hasn't even started yet. As night falls, the storm finally arrives. The wind slams into the trees, snow piles up on top of the shelter, and from the outside, the entire structure is almost swallowed by the storm. But the entrance remains closed. The walls are packed with thick layers of branches, and the fire is still burning inside. He sits in the darkness, listening to the storm rage through the forest. And that's what makes wilderness survival so fascinating. Because when you lose everything, you may not need a house. You may only need to know how to build one from what's around you.